System administrators, fellow defenders, listen closely. I'm issuing a Code Ninja security advisory right here, right now. The window for preventative action, yeah, that's officially closed. We're no longer in a warning phase, we are in active incident response. As we speak, unauthenticated hackers are actively leveraging critical zero-day vulnerabilities in popular Joomla extensions to drop executable files directly onto web servers. So, to be clear, this is not a theoretical vulnerability. It's not some laboratory demonstration. This is a live, in-the-wild perimeter breach, and frankly, your infrastructure could already be compromised. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and get your perimeter secured.
To really understand the sheer velocity of this threat, we've got to map out the rapid escalation timeline. Pre-disclosure, security researcher Phil Taylor discovered this fatal flaw, but almost concurrently, threat actors were observed weaponizing it out in the wild. On July 9, 2026, the National Vulnerability Database officially published the record, slapping it with an absolute maximum severity score. And then, by July 10th, things got so severe that CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, actually intervened. They escalated the threat profile, adding it to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog and invoking Binding Operational Directive 2604. This mandate gave federal civilian executive branch agencies a strict remediation deadline of July 13th. The perimeter was already under attack, and the government was absolutely sounding the alarm.
All right, before we transition into the technical deep dive, let's do a quick comms check. Do you read me? If you're managing any web infrastructure, you need this intelligence, and you need it fast. So go ahead and hit subscribe to @cybertech79 right now and enable those notifications. You should really consider this a security necessity for real-time intelligence. And please smash that like button on this explainer as a formal ACK, an acknowledgement that you are receiving this secure transmission.
Part 1. SITREP. Anatomy of the exploit.
Acknowledgement received. We're now moving into Phase 3, the deep dive. So how exactly does a routine web feature turn into a devastating attack surface? Well, just look at that number. 10.0. That is the absolute maximum critical CVSS score assigned to the Balbooa Forms flaw by the Joomla project, with the NVD also rating it a massive 9.8. You might be wondering, why is it so incredibly high? Simply because this is an unauthenticated low-complexity attack vector that requires literally zero user interaction. An attacker just sends a packet over the network, and boom, they instantly achieve full remote code execution, or RCE. They own the server. It's that simple.
The root cause of all this boils down to one specific vulnerability class, CWE434. In plain English, that means an unrestricted upload of file with dangerous type. Basically, an application designed to accept harmless attachments, things like a PDF or an image, fails entirely to prevent an attacker from submitting executable script content. The hosting environment looks at the uploaded malicious script, considers it perfectly safe, and just stores it right in a directory where it can be executed. Because hey, who doesn't love a server that takes a hacker entirely at their word, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scope of the problem. We are dealing with two distinct threats here. You've got CVE 2656.291 affecting Balbooa Forms and CVE 2648.93.9 affecting iCagenda. They both share the exact same CWE 434 vulnerability class, and get this, they both show confirmed evidence of active exploitation in the wild. Now, while CISA hasn't linked them to a single shared campaign just yet, the fact remains, attackers have identified this flaw in multiple Joomla extensions and are actively weaponizing it to breach systems globally. So let's look at how this builds into a total system compromise, specifically focusing on Balbooa Forms. The bypass mechanics were shockingly simple. The upload endpoint operated completely unprotected. It required no login whatsoever. It checked absolutely no CSRF or cross-site request forgery token, and worst of all, it blindly trusted the visitor-supplied file extension exactly as is. If an attacker uploaded a file named shell.php, the server gladly accepted it, stored it, and stood by, totally ready to execute it.
Part 2. SITREP. Assessing the blast radius.
Okay, so the attacker has dropped an executable on your web server. We now need to pivot. We've got to define the impact and evaluate the true exposure of your network. Listen to me, you cannot treat this as just a web team problem. If you're a Windows Server admin, you are absolutely in the crosshairs here. You must fire off these critical assessment questions immediately. Is this deployment reachable from the internet, even via old domains or, say, unpublished paths? Where are the writable directories? What permissions does the application identity actually possess? And crucially, if that Joomla extension runs on a Windows server, what internal Active Directory identities or databases can that web service identity reach?
The blast radius isn't just the web app, it's literally whatever Microsoft infrastructure is connected to it.
Part 3. SITREP, the mitigation and forensic protocol.
Knowing the blast radius, we must execute an actionable incident response workflow. And I am issuing a massive caution here. Do not, under any circumstances, rush straight to the patch. You've got to understand the difference between routine patching and active incident response. Routine patching, that's what we do when a vulnerability scanner flags a theoretical weakness. We wait for a maintenance window, we apply a fix, done. But CISA has confirmed active exploitation in the wild. We are now officially in active incident response mode. You must assume compromise, you must preserve evidence, you must hunt for threats. A patch only closes the door. It doesn't kick out the hacker who's already sitting on the couch inside your living room.
Therefore, you must execute this 4-step incident response workflow exactly in this order. No skipping ahead. Step 1, isolate and contain the component. Take the affected instance out of service immediately. Step 2, preserve your evidence and logs before you do anything else. Seriously, touch nothing else first. Step 3, investigate for pre-remediation compromise. Only after you have rigorously completed these steps do you move to Step 4, apply the patch, which for Balbooa Forms is version 2.4.1. This specific version finally enforces server-side allow listing and MIME type checks.
Let's detail exactly what evidence must be preserved back in Step 2. Do not delete suspicious files or rebuild systems until you capture web server access and error logs. Back up those upload and temporary directories. Capture endpoint process and network telemetry, and pull all file creation records. You need to look for files with unexpected extensions, maybe misleading names, and you have to correlate file creation times with suspicious web requests. Because without this data, you will literally never know if data was exfiltrated or if backdoor persistence was already established.
Part 4, Phase 4, the ethics of disclosure.
As we wrap up this protocol, you might be asking, why are we ringing the alarm bells so loudly? Well, because as white hat security researchers, we practice coordinated vulnerability disclosure, or CVD. It all comes down to this core belief: users need to know to protect their systems. We drop this intelligence with intense urgency to force vendors to release patches quickly and, much more importantly, to give you the actionable data you need to protect your community's perimeter. When an exploit shifts from a lab theory to an active, in-the-wild attack, full disclosure is absolutely the only ethical path forward to prevent mass compromise.
So, you now have the intel, the timeline, and the forensic protocol. But I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Closing a vulnerable path today prevents tomorrow's exploitation, for sure, but have you actually checked your logs to prove they aren't already inside? Execute the protocol. Trust nothing but the evidence. Stay secure.